Hello, hello, hi there. It's Melanie Footsmith from Eden Mears HR Consulting. HR Consulting to keep you compliant but uncomplicated. So here I am today, and as you can see, I am talking about the third part of the 5 tips that every small business owner needs to know about hiring. And just to premise again, we are talking about hiring from a point of view of whether or not you're outsourcing something or you're actually getting an employee in for whom you'll be responsible for their tax and NI, or all the other permutations of how you can get some help. So on Monday, I spoke to you about the W, which was the what. So working out what you needed, how to work out what you need someone else to do what you ought to be doing yourself. And then on Wednesday, because I didn't do Tuesday, we spoke about the O, which was being organized. So that was about how you get your job spec together, or your kind of resource documents, so that if you're using an outsourced company, they know what you need and when you need it. So we talked about your objectives and we talked about your KPIs. So we talked about how to set those. Today is the R, which stands for recruit/resource. And that is very much about you now getting that person in. So if you think about it, you know what you want, you know what you want the person to do. You have got your outcomes, so you know what outcomes you're expecting, you know what timeliness you're looking for, so you've got your KPIs, your key performance indicators that are already. So now you can start to recruit. So there are a few stages that you need to go through. So number 1 is advertise. So depending on your role, you will need to find the right place to advertise. So, for example, if I'm looking for a HR person, I might use the CIPD, which is the Chartered Institute of Personal Development. I might want to put an ad on their website or in their magazine. Or if I'm looking for like another apprentice, then actually what I'll do is I'll take my spec and I'll go to my local apprentice organisation, and I will tell them what I want, and they will find me some apprentices for me to interview, or so it kind of depends on what I'm looking for. If you are, I would suggest, if you can, try to stay within your local area. So wherever you are, try to kind of do some looking and searching in your local area, mainly because advertising can be really expensive. You're a small business owner, finding someone who's local, investing in the local economy is always a great thing to do. And every area these days has like a job shop or something where you can advertise, and they do some let you do advertise for free, some at a really low rate. So that really works very well. And then alternatively, obviously, there are all the different job boards that you can use where you can get different deals. But definitely, if you can try and source someone locally, that will always help. So the things to remember about your advert is that you want to have a brief, and a lot of this stuff you can take from the job description that we talked about in day 1. But you want to start off with like a brief overview of your organisation. So, growing business, developing whatever it is that you're developing. We'll talk about opportunities, for growth and expansion. What good, great culture you've got. You want to be able to talk about those things. Then obviously you've got the job title, and you want to talk about key responsibilities of the role. So like literally when I spoke about the objectives, when I said to you, they're like, no more than 5. That's what you need, like the top 3 to 5 things that person is responsible for. That's all you need to know, responsibilities. And then you want to talk about, the contract term. So is it fixed term? Is it permanent? Is it a 0 hours contract? What is it? And then you can put a salary range in there so you don't get anyone expecting like £100,000 and you're only paying 30. So make sure that you've got that in there. And then obviously then you will have a link to the job description. So it's just make sure you've got all of those things in there so that people know what they're looking for. They know what you're looking for, so they can know whether or not they fit and they match, and you can get some great applications that way. So you just need to look at those things, look at the job title, the key responsibilities, have that remuneration levels, and you can also mention benefits, bonuses if you're doing anything like that, if it's a sales role. So make sure that you do all of that. So that's the first bit, right? So you need to make sure you got your advertising. You need to decide where the best, and I just spoke to you before about the best places to advertise. The other thing that I would say to you that is always great when it comes to advertising roles is to use your social network, or well, not just your social network, but your network, because getting recommendations of things is always amazing. Like I know lots of people who will be like, I'm looking for a blah, and they'll just kind of put it up around, and you know, everybody knows people who are looking for jobs, especially if you have a LinkedIn profile, you've got stuff up on there, generally speaking, you know, you've got your network. What they say, your network is your net worth. So definitely be reaching out and seeing if you can find anybody there among the other stuff that I said. And also make sure that you always put your roles on your websites. If you've got some open roles, make sure they're there on your website, because okay, you might not have like you may have huge input into your website, especially if you've got like a like an e-commerce type business, but people search, and you have to remember that Google goes through and searches for words and things. So if people are looking for jobs and it's going through the indexing process, they will find them. So it's always good to do that. So then the next thing to do, so once you've advertised and you've got your amazing candidates come in, is to look at how you're going to shortlist. Now, the way that I shortlist is that I have, again, those where you've got your job description with all the things that you need a person to have. I literally have a spreadsheet that has a list that goes down of all the essential skills that I'm looking for, or attributes or behaviours, and then has the essentials at the bottom. And then literally I can put the name of my candidates across the top, and then in each column I can literally tick off where the evidence that they've got those things, either in their CV or their cover letter or application form. I can tick that off, and then when I get to the end I can say, okay, well, these people know because I did tick all the boxes. This person's a yes, they tick the box. And then maybe, you know, if I've got 20 people that are yes, then I might pick the top 5 or top 7, which I will then go on to the next bit, which is I'll give them a telephone interview. Now, I think telephone interviews are really great because it gets a couple of things out of the way. It gets you to find out if the person is really interested in the role, that they didn't just kind of copy bomb and apply for everything that they were looking for. You get a chance to have a bit of a chat with them and check out their communication. You have the opportunity to just check that you know, around remuneration and stuff like that they're comfortable, to see like their current roles, their notice period, that kind of stuff. You have an opportunity to have that kind of brief conversation. So it normally is like 20 minutes to half an hour. It's not a great deal of time, but it's an opportunity to just get a quick overview, quick feel of that person. And again, in the same way that I had that matrix for in the same way that I had that matrix I talked about that you use for shortlisting, do a similar thing. So you've got all the different questions that you want to ask, and you names across the top, and as you go through you just kind of fill it in, so you've got all of those so you can decide. And then at the end of it you just say, you know, if you know what's what, you can just say, okay, that's great, we're looking to interview next week, what's your availability like? And you say, oh, sweet other candidates, and I'll get back to you with a date and a time. So you can do that. So I would definitely suggest that you do the shortlisting, and then you go on to your actual face-to-face interview. Now, the thing that I always say is that that when you're interviewing, well, a couple of things. Number one, please try not to interview alone. It's always good to get a bit of a balanced idea from someone else. Try to get someone to come in and interview with you. Sometimes some of my clients ask me to come in and interview with them, especially if they're interviewing for a role and they don't want, you know, another manager who would be that person's peer, or even more if they're getting someone in at a middle level. So you know, a lot of CEOs have like kind of middle level managers, and they decide they want to get an operations manager in or something. They'll have me come in and sit with them, but always try and get someone else to sit with you in the interviews. It's good to be able to bounce your thoughts off someone else. I've got one client who always uses her dad, because she said he's really objective, he's very straight, so she gets him to come and sit in and do the interviews with her. But just try to get someone to come in with you, so you've got someone else to bounce ideas off. The other thing is, you know, to also be compliant, because, you know, people can take you to employment tribunal for not employing them, saying you discriminated. It's always good to be able to show that you ask everybody the same questions and you use the same kind of scoring mechanisms, and that you've got that in your back pocket. You can pull it out if you need to. So again, I'm talking again about these matrices. So you have, you know, again, with all the questions that you've been asked, and what I do with those ones is I do all the questions, and next to it I do my model answer, and then I'll have their answer that I fill in and how I score it. So then basically, if they hit all the points of my model answer, they might get 5. If they hit 3 of the points, they get 3. If they hit none of the points, they might get 0. And so I can really score easily, and I've got it all evidence-based there. So what I would say to you about interviewing people is you might end up with a job description that's really quite long, but when you interview someone, it's generally for an hour, and the most you can really do is ask about 5 to 6 in-depth questions. I've seen questions where you're really like, tell me about a situation where you did this, how did you do this, how did this go, and really getting a good feel for how they work. If you take into consideration kind of 10 minutes of preamble at the beginning, you introductions, talking about the role, you telling them about everything, then you asking them a little bit about themselves at the beginning, and you kind of want to have like 5 to 10 minutes at the end for them to ask questions. So yeah, really, you've only got 40 minutes worth of questioning time. So again, with those key responsibilities that we talked about having in your advert, just speak to those things, and if there are any other particular things that you need to delve into, have questions around those that you can really deep dive into. If you can see in the subject at the top, there's also a link there, which is a link for the freebie that I'm talking about. That has all of the 5 sections, and also in there it has a link to our interview questions. So it has a whole list of like kind of do's and don'ts around interview questions. So all the things that you all the things that you should ask, all the things that you shouldn't ask, and it gives you a whole bunch of types of questions that you can answer. That's also linked within the recruit section of that document. And then let me go back to my notes. Shortlisting, telephone interview, I did all of that, face-to-face interview. So then basically that's the scoring. And then obviously when you get to the end of all of those, you will know who your top scorer is, which should be the person who's successful. Or if you've got multiple roles, there'll be more people that are successful. I realise I can see, hi Hannah, I can see that you are watching. If you are so rude, if you're watching live, please do ask any questions, any comments, let me know how you're doing, and likewise, and if you're watching a replay, hashtag replay, and again, let me know your thoughts, your questions, any comments that you've got on what I'm talking about. So those were the things to remember about recruiting, right resourcing if you're recruiting. From a point of view of if you are looking for, if you're looking to outsource your work, I've got a few things to say there. So if you're looking for kind of admin VA type stuff, I think it's always great to get a recommendation. You know, anybody else who works with VAs, it's great to get recommendations. If not, if you know what you want and there's some VAs out there, you know, likewise, you kind of want to talk to them about what they've done. It's you're well within your rights to ask to speak to some current clients to find out about their skill set, to make sure they can do the things that you need to do. If you're expecting them to, like, I don't know, write for you or do any of that kind of stuff, to see an example of the kind of stuff they work. And obviously, then the other thing is to kind of have a bit of a probation period when you start working with them. So if they asking you to sign up to a contract that's like, you know, you've got rolling 3 months or something, you have to give them 3 months notice, then, you know, the first month, maybe you just want it for a month, you want it a couple of weeks so that you can see if it works. You want to be able to check what they're doing and check that it's timely and it works the way you want to. So always make sure that you've got something in place for theirs. So again, talking about the KPIs that we talked about yesterday, make sure that they can adhere to them and that you've got a good out for if they're not adhering to the KPIs. You don't have to then wait 3 months and have 3 months of shoddy service, that you can come out of it sooner. So make sure those kind of things are in there. When you know, and also it's you're well within your rights to ask for examples of good work and all of that good stuff. Also, quickly, and there's something I forgot about the interview process. If there are also other ways of checking out whether or not these employees are going to be great. So if they need to be salesy or something, you might do a test. So it might be a presentation that they need to do. It might be, you might have some online testing you want to do. If you're looking for admin support, you might want to test their or financial support or something. You might want to test their level of maths. You might want to test how well they know Excel, all of those kind of things. If you need help with that kind of stuff, do just comment or DM us and let us know, and we'll see what we can do to help you with those. But that's it. As I said, I was trying to keep each of these things to 10 minutes. I've gone 50% over. But I hope you have enjoyed it. I will be back tomorrow, Friday, and I'm going to do double bubbles. So I'm going to do part 3 and part 4. So I'm going to do the L and the D at the same time. If you have any questions, comments or queries, do just let me know. We will be looking in the comments section to make sure everything is good. But in the meantime, enjoy the rest of your day. It's like lovely and sunny. I was out at meetings all day today, and you know, I had a cardigan, I had shawl. I was expecting it to be cold, and after my run this morning, but actually it's been lovely and sunny. I'm really enjoying this extended summer in London. So whatever you're doing, have a wonderful rest of the day, and I will speak to you all again soon. Take care now. Bye bye.